In this video, I'll be comparing some budget 4x4s. So what all these 4 cubes have in common is they all cost quite close to $15. So what I have here is the MF4S from Cubing Classroom, which is a more used brand. I have the QiYuan from QiYi, the GuanSu from YJ, and the Win from ShengShou. So starting with the MF4S, this cube is quite light. In fact, it's the lightest out of all the 4 cubes I have here. The turning is decently fast, and there's a nice sandy feel. But one problem with this cube is that the reverse corner cutting is not very good. Even though there's very large holes everywhere, but if you misalign anything larger than the holes, you basically cannot reverse corner cut. So this is a nice cube to solve on, but as a serious speed solving option, this is not the first thing I would consider. The next cube I have is the QiYuan. The QiYuan is slightly more stable than the MF4S, and it is sort of the opposite of the MF4S. This is very light and fast, but this is significantly slower and quite sluggish, and the cube is also quite heavy. Comparing this with the 4S, although this sort of fixed the reverse corner cutting issue, I would still rather use the 4S over this, because the lack of reverse corner cutting is something that I will only get if I turn inaccurately, whereas the sluggish feel as well as the heavy weight of the whole cube is something that you will feel all the time when you're solving. Next up we have the GuanSu, and I will have to start by saying the bad things about this cube, because I only have one thing to say, which is it doesn't reverse corner cut very much. But fortunately, unlike the MF4S, which the catching is more internal based, the GuanSu's catching is more external. So what it means is by Florian-modding the pieces externally, like especially on the heads, meaning like I sanded down the heads a bit, but I barely even touched the roots, which explains why I can actually do the Florian mod and fix this issue. The GuanSu has been my main for the whole 2016, and it's not until I magnetize a ShengShou Win that I actually switch from it. Why is the GuanSu so good? It's mostly because it's very fast, it's very stable, it doesn't flex. Lastly, I have the ShengShou Win. This one has quite an interesting story behind it. I actually wanted to make a magnetic 4x4, but I didn't want to touch my main and risk damaging it in an experiment, so I went to buy another budget 4x4, which I knew about this one. Out of the box, this thing is actually quite bad. It is very slow and very tight, but when I loosen the tensions, the corner cutting is actually as good as this, and so is the reverse. But the real change happened after I changed the springs. The springs I used came from the ShengShou Linglong Mini 3x3, but I think any softer springs would do. And what happens is this cube became a lot faster, and it's quite comparable to the GuanSu. In fact, the only difference between these two is that the ShengShou Win has slightly larger holes, so it actually flexes a little bit more than the GuanSu, allowing for better fluidity in your saws. But the GuanSu has better stability. But of course, this thing is now my main because I put the magnets in it, and so it sort of have artificial stability for the magnets. But I would say that without the magnets, these two would actually be very comparable to each other. So my final verdict about the budget 4x4s is that if you just learn 3x3 and you want to advance and learn 4x4 and speed isn't really your immediate concern, I recommend the MF4S because it's light, it's nice turning, and you won't really be too concerned about the reverse corner cutting if you are a beginner. For the QiYuan, personally this is my least favorite one out of the 4, and if you tend to be a more aggressive turner and you don't mind the weight, maybe you can try this. For the GuanSu and the ShengShou Win, I would actually recommend these two to people who miss the old ShengShou era where you have a very fast and slightly looser feeling cube. It's mostly low friction cubes. And also the hard crunchy plastic of both of these cubes. And of course, back in those era, mods were a thing, which Florian-modding and ShengShou